news, be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
KXST AM North Las Vegas, KXTE HD3 Pahrump Las Vegas, CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM, a radio.com station. The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbranson.
Good morning. Good Sunday morning, Raider Nation, listening throughout the world. This is Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140, coming to you live from the city with the world's most hotel rooms and, of course, the new home of the future Las Vegas Raiders and Las Vegas Stadium. Hi, I'm your host, Scott Gulbranson, founder and publisher of silverandblacktoday.com. Today, as always, at least recently, until I get sick of them, no, just kidding, is my co-host, and that is Kelly Kreiner. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm good, man. If you get tired of me, I can sleep in on Sundays.
I was going to say, you, with the work you do, I'm sure Sunday morning, waking up early is exactly what you want, right?
No. I would love for this to be a 2 o'clock show.
Yes.
Amazing.
Well, hopefully we'll get there. But Kelly, thanks for joining us, man. Okay, reminder, we are streaming today's show worldwide on radio.com app. If you don't already have it, make sure to grab it. Radio.com is a place for the best sports, radio, music, and talk. You name it, download it, and listen to us live anywhere in the world. Also, we're live on video again today. Hello, I'm waving. You can come right into the studio with Kelly and I. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, via Periscope. On Twitch, if you're a gamer as well. Always a ton of listener-viewer chat happening over there as well, so make sure you check it out. It's always fun, I think. At least that's what they tell me. But we're in there mixing it up with you, too, during breaks. So if you have questions and you're too shy to call in at 702-889-5978, then you can do it there. In addition, check out our website, silverandblacktoday.com. This week, we covered the Raiders' big announcement at the stadium, a deal with Cox Communications. We'll talk about that later in the show. And we hopefully put to bed the rumors and false hope of Derek Carr haters, and that as the team's brass reaffirms he is indeed the Raiders franchise quarterback for now. And I say that not being negative, but I'll explain. All on the only all Raiders website based in the team's future home of Las Vegas, silverandblacktoday.com. Okay, let's set topics on the table and tell you what's ahead on today's show. Mike Mayock, the Raiders' first-time general manager, kicked off the combine with a press conference where he talked a lot about the Raiders, their needs in the upcoming NFL draft, and more. In between what was most certainly misdirection, right, Kelly? We'll talk about that. Mayock reasserted one important thing. Derek Carr is the Raiders franchise quarterback, a point that head coach Jon Gruden also made clear. We'll hear a bunch of sound from those press conferences here in the first hour. Also, the NFL Combine is winding down today, tomorrow in Indianapolis. As usual, there were surprises and there were busts as far as individual performances go. We'll go through what we saw, what concerned us about some of the draft class, and we'll give you our big winners and losers from the annual football meat market. And we'll talk about the hype, too, DK Metcalf, and just how much some of these guys improve their stock. Second hour kicks off with a guest I'm really excited to chat with, and someone, Kelly, that is well-known, I think, to all of Raider Nation, and that, of course, is Wayne Mabry, also known as the Violator. We're going to have him on, Kelly.
That's just a quality nickname. I mean, I don't care if you're
so many names.
If you're a wrestler, if you're a football fan, if you're anything, the Violator just it just covers so many bases.
It really does. And so we're going to talk to Wayne as well. He's one of the original members of the Black Hole. He'll be with us, and he'll talk about his journey to super fandom, the emotion of the team leaving Oakland eventually, and about his uncertain future as a longtime Raiders season ticket holder. This will be an interesting perspective there. And just a great guy. The Violator will be with us at the top of the next hour. Then we will explore Raiders fandom and tradition. I think after the conversation with Wayne, we want to talk about that a little bit because there's a lot of concern when they move to Las Vegas that things will change too much. And but when the team comes from Oakland, what will come with them, what won't come with them, what new traditions, they're not traditions until you actually do them, but you get the point, might pop up in the team's new home here in Las Vegas. We'll ask the question also, what's the current identity of Raider Nation, Kelly? Because I think it's evolved over time.
Yeah.
With losing especially.
I was going to say, and that's kind of the thing, the just win baby mentality's always been there. The kind of rough and tumble type thing's been there. But it doesn't matter what your identity is. If you keep losing and have a losing season, that quickly becomes your identity.
It does. So we're going to talk about that and if it will go under any changes over the next few years. Then we get legal. That's right. We get legal. Attorney Michael Troiano, Las Vegas' top up-and-coming criminal defense attorney, will be with us to give us an update on the Patriots owner Robert Kraft, his recent bust for prostitution in Florida. What's the latest and what might Kraft face when he gets in front of a judge if he does? Troiano.
Whatever. That'll never see the light of day.
Yeah. Troiano will also, he's our Silver and Black Today legal expert, as you know. He'll be live in the studios with us here at CBS Sports Radio 1140. We'll close out the show with Kelly's Corner. Who knows what that's going to be, but you'll find out. There you have it, Raider Nation. You're up to date. We've set topics on the table for you here on Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio. Now it's your turn. Pick up the phone, folks, 702-889-5978. Okay, so what we want to get to now is a little bit of sound. We were out this week. The Raiders announced their second founding partner for the Las Vegas Stadium, and that is Cox Communications. There was a press conference at 3:15, Kelly, but what did you say when I tweeted out that they were going to have a press conference?
Well, it's Cox, and anybody who has Cox cable out here, I heard there was an announcement, and I was just curious, is it going to happen from 10 to 12 or 1 to 3? Because that's pretty much the options you get, and it's always like I had my, I had a Wi-Fi cable put in the house about 3 or 4 weeks ago. 1 to 3, 3:15, guy shows up.
Well, there you go. See, so they actually were on time with their press conference, and we didn't have to wait for a window of 4 hours. But what I found interesting about it was, of course, these are going to happen more and more, and probably the first few are a little more of a big deal just because you start to get the ball rolling on getting that money in and the money that they have to make to recoup their investment and get things moving. So Cox Communications becomes a second founding partner after Caesars Entertainment, and they will also provide, not surprised, internet connectivity and technology backbone for the stadium. And so we're going to play you some sound now. The first is from the press conference. Here's Raiders president Marc Badain talking about the relationship and why Cox.
But it's an exciting day for the Raiders, certainly an exciting day for Cox. This relationship goes back decades. The two organizations have worked together since the late 90s. So when we moved here and we had an opportunity to engage with some of the local companies, the fact that Cox was interested in partnering with us and becoming a founding partner of Las Vegas Stadium and a key partner of the Raiders was both personally exciting and professionally exciting.
All right, so there you go with Cox. Now, Kelly, you've been to have you been to T-Mobile for a hockey game?
Not for a hockey game.
Not for hockey.
Yeah.
Or for a concert or whatever, because at T-Mobile Arena, Cox provides the technology there. And I've had my complaints at home about Cox in the past. Now I have gigabit service, Gigablast. It's awesome. But for me, T-Mobile's, and I know it's a 16,000-seat arena, not a 65,000-seat stadium, but to me, it has the best Wi-Fi. I've been in a crowd that's always sold out, 18,000 people. I've never had any problems. Very easy to connect. It's great. And with people going crazy, sharing everything to social media, it's really a must for fan experience. So I had a lot of comments when we posted some of the video and audio from the event saying, oh, Cox sucks because of their personal experience. But on the large scale, they've done well.
Yeah, and it's going to be a huge thing, and the NFL is really pushing stuff like that for the fan experience because so many people are fantasy football people. You're watching, your other players on your team while you're at the games. Gambling's going to be, statewide before too long. Let's not act like people aren't sitting in a game, watching game they have action on somewhere else, So it's going to be very important that Wi-Fi and everything not only works, but is fast because that's the biggest complaint you're going to get about your stadium.
Oh, yeah. Sharing social media and stuff, but then you add the gaming in, and I actually talked to them about that. But then Badain, we were fortunate enough to get some one-on-one time with Badain. And besides not taking any bait and asking my question about the Oakland lease.
Yeah, got to throw it out there, man.
Yeah, exactly. He gave me the standard answer when we have an announcement, we'll let you know. But we did get to talk to him a little bit about this deal and what it meant. And here's what Badain had to say about the deal with Cox when we talked to him.
Well, for the fans, the technology that Cox can bring to the stadium and to the stadium projects really unparalleled. They've been in other buildings. They've been in NFL buildings. They're across every single medium. So when we first announced the move here, it was one of the first companies that we started communicating with. They've been involved with some of the design of the building from the get-go. So today was really the culmination of probably about 18 months worth of discussions, both on a partnership level as well as a design and implementation level at the building to bring just a first-class customer experience for everything that people have come to expect.
Well, it makes sense. You're going to be they're going to be working with you at the HQ and practice facility as well. Talk about what this means for you too in securing other partners for the facility.
For the stadium or for the practice facility? We're in a lot of discussions. We'll have some more announcements coming up over the next few months. Some are going to want to do events like this, and some might do some different type of announcements. But this is really today about Cox and today about the technology partnership and what it's going to mean for the building.
All right, there you have it. Marc Badain talking with us one-on-one at the stadium. So as you could tell, it was a windy day.
Yeah.
With a windscreen on your microphone, it doesn't matter when it's that windy in Vegas. But nonetheless, so there he was, and it's true that they're providing the internet and all that stuff for the stadium. And there's a lot of stuff I'm not going to play today because I don't want to bore people with a bunch of technology stuff. But they are really building it for virtual reality experiences, virtual mapping, and all these sort of things. And obviously, building a building in 2019 from the ground up, you're able to put in this infrastructure, Kelly, that's to your point about gaming, about social media, about other experiences. The NFL is putting a lot of money into it. It's going to be pretty dynamite. We're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, we'll play a little more from the stadium. We just want to talk about stadium progress, how PSL sales, blah, blah, are going. And then we'll talk about the Combine, Mike Mayock and Jon Gruden. You're listening to the Silver and Black today, Las Vegas' only all-Raiders sports talk show. Here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Don't go anywhere.
Marijuana use during pregnancy. Marijuana is not safe for pregnant or breastfeeding women and their babies. Everything a mother eats, drinks, or smokes affects her developing baby or enters her breast milk. Just like alcohol and tobacco, using marijuana can have negative effects for your baby.
Plus talk the silver and black. Call us at 702-889-5978. Here's Matt Gutierrez and your host, Scott Gulbranson, on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140. All right, so we're going to finish up just a little quick audio. We got so much audio to get through here, but we also had one-on-one with Badain about stadium progress and how things are going so far with the construction, because we have people out there who feel like there's some issues, which we've tried to dispel those rumors. But just so you can hear it right from the president of the Raiders, here's what Badain had to say about them walking through the stadium and where things are now.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I went down there into the belly of it yesterday and got my first tour in about 4 or 5 weeks, and locker rooms are formed and club areas are formed. You have, not that this is exciting, but for us it's a milestone. You have all the conduit, you have the HVAC, you have plumbing, you have escalators that are in place. So you're starting to see not just the steel and the concrete, but you're starting to see the guts of the building come to life. And in the next couple weeks, you're going to start to see some of the like the cantilever of the roof to start to take shape. So you're going to see that start to be the next transformation of the building. So that'll be exciting visually for everyone in the community.
Then also, Badain, we asked him about PSL sales. That's another popular subject outside of Las Vegas, right? People, they're not selling well or whatever. But anyway, here's what he had to say about PSLs. The clip would be Badain PSL sales. We'll play that for you here in just a second. It's the only other one that says Badain, Jason. Talking to Jason, our engineer. Just kidding. See, I had to call you Jason now because... All right. Well, we'll get back to that. Listen, okay, so the other thing we want to talk about here is the fact that there is the combine going on, Kelly. The Raiders had a lot to say. Mike Mayock was the first actual GM to have a press conference, and he talked about a lot of stuff. And so I want to get to a couple of these clips. This will be one Mayock about how quarterbacks, like quarterbacks always seem to dominate, right? Of course, Kyler Murray in this draft is the story. And here's what Mayock had to say about how these new types of quarterbacks have changed the draft.
It's an interesting question, and I think what's happening is obviously quarterbacks drive the process. But I think as we become more and more pass-driven league, we're seeing more and more potential trade partners with people that can stop the pass, defensive linemen, corners. Obviously, the wide receiver thing's a different conversation, but I think defensively I'm hearing more and more from coaches about, hey, how do we stop this spread offense? Where are the priorities now on defense? So I think that conversation's part of it also, not just the quarterbacks.
Good point, right?
Yeah, and it's also no coincidence that Mayock was the first one that they're going to bring up and talk to because, like you said, this thing's a show now. It's everything they do with a purpose, they do with a reason, and they know that Gruden Mayock's it's the big front office story.
Yeah, no, and and the Raiders, it's interesting too how they capture or want to captivate the audience with the Raiders stuff. The Raiders, for as bad as they've been for so long, they still occupy this place where people want to talk about them, including the national media. They did ask him about his transition, to your point, to general manager. And here, the second Mayock clip to Mayock, here's what he had to say about the transition from TV guy to GM.
You know what? At the end of the day, evaluating is evaluating. So when I sit in the room by myself and watch film, which I don't get to do as much of as I'd like right now, but when I do that, it's no different than what I've done the last 20 years. What's different, though, is evaluating free agency this year, for instance. So while I had my scouts in for 2 weeks, we went 15 straight days, 12 hours a day, sitting in a room with the scouts, putting together our first draft board, but I'd have to jump in and out for free agency, for instance. And I think the difference this week for me is I get more access to the kids, which is helpful. So that's the biggest difference for me this week is we had 2 interviews last night. We're going to have 8 more tonight, 60 overall. The 15 minutes with those kids is critical. The 30 visits in Oakland are critical. The local visits. The more time you get with the kids, I think the better job you do scouting.
You buy everything he said there?
Well, the biggest thing he mentioned is, evaluating was evaluating, but now there's stakes involved. When he's on the NFL Network, if he says, I would take this guy over this guy, and he flames out, it doesn't really matter. Now it matters. Your job's on the line now. Your franchise is on the line now. So the evaluation is, you're still evaluating people, but now there's a whole different level to it.
Right, because if you're a TV guy and 6 months later people forget what you said, they don't really care.
Well,
but if you draft a player and he stinks it up on the field, a whole different story.
Yeah, Mel Kiper said he would quit if Jimmy Clausen wasn't a Pro Bowler, and we saw how that
He's
worked
still working. So that was Mayock on the transition. Now, if you look at, let's talk real quickly. I'm going to play this as well because you mentioned it. You have to hit on those draft picks. This is 7 Mayock to David, our engineer. And he talked about the fact that the Raiders, because they have so many holes, because of what they want to do, they have to hit on draft picks, especially the early stuff. Later rounds, it's a crapshoot, right? But still, even then, they know, and I get the sense of urgency in his voice here that he understands how important this draft is. So here's Mayock on hitting on all draft picks.
People ask me that, and it's really intriguing. We have to hit on them, obviously, but what I keep trying to tell our staff from A to Z is those 2 7th-round picks are just as important as the 3 first-round picks. And the college free agents that we sign after that are just as important. And we're trying to build a culture and accountability and talent, and we're trying to do all these different things. And I think the important thing is it's easy to focus on the 3 first-round picks, but we need to hit throughout the entire draft. We got 10 picks. That could be more or less at the end of the day. But we've got 10 picks, and we value all of them. So we need to hit on a high percentage. We've got more needs than I can even tell you about right now, and that means we've got to hit everywhere. Free agency, draft, college free agency, everywhere.
It's hard to disagree with what he said there, that they need to be really good throughout the draft. But let's face it, though. I know what he's saying about, hey, 7th rounders matter.
Yeah.
They don't. The first 3 round, 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, that, Kelly, is where they're going to either make a big step up in their development or they're going to fall down.
Yeah, if the 7th round's just as important as the 1st round, I know 31 NFL teams that would love to trade 3 7th-round picks for number 24. But, I mean, yeah, that's GM speak. That's what he's got to throw out there. And I think that especially perception is the biggest thing with these 3 first-round picks. If you hit 2 out of 3 and that 3rd one just kind of flames out, that's a good percentage. I mean, that's kind of what you're shooting for. But since they gave up Mack for one of these, since they gave up Cooper for one of these, people are just expecting all 3 of them to be home runs.
Absolutely. Now, before we go, we have a few minutes left here in this segment. I want to talk about Derek Carr. We're going to play the Mayock clip here, number 6. About Derek Carr, because, even today in the chat on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, we're getting people saying that they're hearing that they're going to trade Carr and try to get Murray and all that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as we talk about the Combine, so don't go anywhere. But here's what Mayock had to say about Carr being the team's franchise quarterback.
I mean, we've got a young quarterback that we think is a franchise quarterback that's going to be 28 years old in March. So we're pretty happy with where we are, especially with our backup quarterback who we signed last year, McCarron. We feel like we're pretty good at the quarterback position.
Well, that's pretty quick. Now we're going to go to 18 Gruden, David. And here, so that's what Mayock said. We'll talk about that in a second. And here's what Gruden said about Carr as his quarterback as well.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think it was well said.
You're a franchise quarterback?
Yeah, he's our franchise quarterback. Yes, try to make that clear.
In typical Gruden fashion, Kelly, very quick and to the point. Mayock had said it the day before, so he's like, yeah, sure, yeah. Now, what you told me the first day of the Combine is everything that people say at the Combine, you can't believe any of it. Do you believe when they say this? Now, if somebody comes and offers them a massive trade for Derek Carr, hey, I think you can trade anybody at any time. I'm not saying that. But do you believe that going in, sans an amazing offer, that Derek Carr is truly their franchise quarterback like they said he is?
I think he is because, like I said, I've never been a big believer of change just for change's sake. Unless you're improving a position, I don't see the point of, you're not going to get rid of Carr unless you can upgrade the position. And like you said, unless they get some massive offer, you're not going to be upgrading the position, not in this draft, not in this free agency. So I think he's there. Now, the part about were they shopping at the Combine? Oh, I'm sure they were because everybody is on the table at the Combine. They may not actively be going out and being like, hey, he's our guy, but there's going to be offers. There's going to be stuff thrown all over the place because the Combine's one of those times where everybody's in town, everybody's around. So they're just throwing everything against the wall.
Yeah, and it's funny. Gary Daniels on Periscope. Nobody in their right mind believes what Gruden says after what we saw with Mack and Cooper.
It's lion season, man.
Well, yeah, but it's not believing somebody. At that moment, if you ask me, hey, are you going to – no, we don't want to trade him. But then somebody comes and asks and says, hey, look, I'll give you 2 first rounds for that guy. Okay, yeah, I will. I mean, I think fans a lot of times, and I understand why, forget the business side of things. And if somebody comes to you, unless this is a Pro Bowl best player in the history of mankind, of course you're going to listen. I mean, it's a business. I know they're people, but when it comes to NFL players, they're a commodity that are there to trade. If you feel you can make a better team, you can get a better player that fits what you want to do, you do it.
Yeah, there's only one person in the NFL right now that's untradeable, and that's Aaron Rodgers. And the reason he's untradeable is if they trade him, the salary cap hit puts him $22 million over the salary cap.
Right, it's not because
and
of
I
loyalty.
found that out the other day playing around with the salary cap stuff.
Yeah, it's not because of loyalty, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely true. Okay, well, when we come back after the break, we are going to talk more NFL Combine and get to some of your questions that we're getting all over social media. Very active group today on all of the 3 channels. You're listening to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
CBS Sports Radio.
Hey, this is Rodney Hudson. You're listening to Silver and Black today.
Yes, Rodney Hudson, who some people feel like they want to trade. Unbelievable. I'm not on board with that. All right, we are back here on Silver and Black today, the only All Raiders talk show in Las Vegas. I am Scott Branson, joined by Kelly Kreiner, and we're talking NFL Combine now, and we want to get into some of our impressions on that, and kind of some of our winners and losers, right? So it's interesting, Kelly, because we talked about this before the show started, and that is not a real exciting combine. Like, there's not a ton of storylines as there have been in years past, even though the media coverage continues to be 24/7. Our partners at CBS Sports, for example, are doing video shows all day long, just ad nauseum talking about everything and everything. But not a ton of storylines. I mean, the Kyler Murray story, let's start with that one just because, and this has nothing to do necessarily with all the talk and a lot of national prognosticators who think that the Raiders are going to trade up to number 1 to get Kyler Murray. I'll eat my hat if it happens. I'm on the record. I will eat my hat.
I wouldn't go that far, man.
I
mean, you've thrown it out there. I don't think it happens either, but it would be the least surprising thing that's going to happen on round 1 of the draft if they do that.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. So you look at Kyler Murray and what's happening there. So much has been put into what's going on with him, and it's because, like you and I said before the show, it's the only kind of big story to chew on. Right? And that's the only reason all these mock drafts with the Raiders taking Kyler Murray, I counted 4 of them from major news outlets that have either them taking it at number 1 or taking him at number 4. What is the fascination with the Raiders doing combine? Because they think they're going to do something stupid? Is that what it is?
Oh, no, it's Jon Gruden. Everybody knows Jon Gruden just loves quarterbacks, and I think that's the biggest thing behind it is, and, I mean, basically, we're rebuilding, and you rebuild with a quarterback. So rebuilding with a young quarterback, an exciting quarterback, just sounds like something everybody would want to do.
And it's the marketing side, then, was what you're saying, too, which is the hype.
Oh, yeah. That's like I said, with Gruden coming in, nobody knows what the hell Gruden's going to do. Everybody's expecting him to do something crazy, and that would be the epitome of craziness, trading up to number 1 for Kyler Murray.
Well, and let's just while we're talking about Kyler Murray, and we'll talk a little bit about his combine and how it's been. Here, we're going to go to 15 Gruden, David, and we're going to hear what Coach Gruden had to say about Kyler Murray at the combine.
I don't know what the physical concerns are. Are you talking about the height? I think that's been proven to not be as much a factor as maybe it was years ago. If you ask Russell Wilson or Breeze or the kid in Cleveland, I don't know that it's a true impact on the position or the performance.
Dun, dun, dun. I don't believe what he says there. In fact, I think that just like everyone else at the combine, Kelly, what Jon Gruden is doing when he talks up a player like that, or even a DK Metcalf, is you have the number 4 pick in the draft. You want that to have as much value as possible. So if you can create excitement around a Kyler Murray or a DK Metcalf or whoever, that puts you in a better position. Because now, if I'm going to trade back several spots because some jamoke is excited about Kyler Murray and wants to move up to number 4 to take him, hey, I'm open for business.
Is it possible you're giving Gruden too much credit there? He seriously just seems like the kind of guy to me that doesn't think that far ahead on some of these things.
I don't know.
No, seriously, he just seems like the kind of guy that's out there that's like, well, here's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm not going to tell you everything, but here's basically, here's what it is, because he never says anything. I mean, everything's wide open to interpretation every single time.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch the fan base, too. So many fans are actually excited and think that it's a good idea to get Kyler Murray at the Raiders, and then the other half just hates it like you would not believe.
And
it's not. There's no in between.
Yeah, he's that type of prospect. Yeah. You're all in or you're all out.
You are. Yeah, I agree with that.
There's, like I said, there's no precedent for somebody his size or anything like that. So he's going to split it. I mean, if you're, and that's why the height and the weight and stuff didn't really matter to me when he came in, because if you're in on him, you're in on him. If you're out on him, you're out on him. Height and weight wasn't going to change that.
Well, and here's NFL.com, their coverage of this. Now, of course, that's the league website, but their journalists, I think for the most part, most of them are very objective, and they try to report things like you would as a normal publication. Here's what they said yesterday after yesterday's workouts about Murray. It said, quote, "In terms of Murray, people are beginning to believe almost universally he will indeed be the number one pick in the draft by the Arizona Cardinals." What else? In fact, teams picking in the top 10 believe they'll have no chance of drafting Murray. He's not the biggest quarterback in the world, but he is a very big presence at the combine. Exactly what you said, right?
Yeah, it's I wrote the piece earlier about if the Raiders want Murray, they may have to trade up for. They would have to trade up for him because that's what you have to do if you get a quarterback. Out of the last 11 quarterbacks drafted, the only one that wasn't traded up for was Baker Mayfield because he was the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah,
quarterbacks go high. We know that it happens. If you want him, you're going to have to go up and get him.
Yeah, there's no question there. And obviously, Murray weighed in nicely. His height was 5'10", not 5'8". But who knows if he had some things in his socks or whatever he did. But it doesn't matter. It's not so much his height particularly as the weight and the size, right?
Yeah, and the weight doesn't really matter what he weighed in because what's he play at? You know, he weighed in at 207. Saturday before week 3, if you put it on a scale, I'm willing to bet a large amount of money he's not at 207. Yeah, that's the whole thing. He's not running at the combine. Why is he not running? You know, because that was his thing. He was going to blow everything away, and that would have sealed everybody. Oh, we have to have this guy. Well, he's not running because he put on 8 or 10 pounds to hit that weight mark. He'll just knock that off and then run at his pro day.
Yeah, no, and there's so many other guys to talk about, and I know this show is zooming by, but that's the Kyler Murray stuff. A lot of fans out there talking. I'm watching the chat here online, and again, very polarizing. Some people say we should go get him. As a fan, they're saying that. Others say the Raiders should not and should be happy with Derek Carr, especially after what the GM and the coach said this week about it. So it'll be interesting to what happens. Okay, Kelly, so let's talk. We're going to go into the next segment with this too, but let's get it started underway here. And that is your biggest winners and losers. I have mine, but let's start. Who was the biggest winner coming out of the combine that wasn't named DK Metcalf?
I was going to say, well, the thing with Metcalf, I mean, everybody knew he was going to be a freak athlete. Everybody knew that his 3-cone wasn't going to be good because he's a stiff guy. So I think he just affirmed everything that we already thought. You know, running the 4.33 just kind of hammered that home that he's a freak athlete. But and maybe it's, I've had him going 8 to Buffalo for months. I've always thought he was the number one wide receiver. So maybe it's just I'm expecting this. Nothing surprised me. For me, it was N'Keal Harry's 40 was huge for him.
Huge, yeah.
You know, if you watch the tape, you don't really see that speed on tape, but it's not like he was slow. It's just you weren't exactly sure how fast. Speed isn't his game, but it's good to know that he isn't slow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's not he's not going to be a burner.
Yeah, you don't see that speed he put on the 40 on tape, but you weren't actually that worried about the speed on tape.
Well, and that he was one of my winners from the combine as well because of that. A 4.53 40 at his size, impressive, along with DK Metcalf. Those two guys running those speeds. Also, I think in his passing drills, he did have a couple drops that didn't look great for him, but overall, he caught the ball better in my book than even Metcalf did. I think he will be. I think both those guys are going to be very productive pros. I think Metcalf has obviously more explosiveness, and we'll see that. But as far as being a good route runner, a guy who's going to get those 50-50 balls, and a guy who's going to be, I think, just the ultimate, especially in short yardage situations, possession receiver. N'Keal Harry's he's worth a number one pick. Is he worth a top 10? No, of course, but he will go in that first round. I have no doubt about that. Now, other winners I thought one of the big ones, Kelly, and I know a lot of people don't like to pay attention to offensive linemen, Garrett Bradbury, the center out of North Carolina State, 4.92 40, and just phenomenal. His balance was amazing, body control, his footwork. I mean, you watch those work. I watched it 4 different times. For a guy that big playing that position, pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that's another thing with me. He was always a first-round pick for me.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean,
again, reaffirming what we knew, right?
It's he's a guy that probably going to be playing center, can probably play guard, but you can swing him around anywhere. Great footwork, good handwork. I mean, and he just hammered that home to where he's If he's not a first-round pick, I don't know what is.
No, I agree with that. And we're going to talk much more about the Combine coming up after the break here, including more of our winners, more of our losers. We'll get to the losers, too. Some big names on there, I think. And then some other surprises, mostly guys from Notre Dame. We'll talk about that after the break here on Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
The only way to take Silver and Black Today with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We're talking NFL Combine and breaking news, Kelly, out of the Combine, a guy you picked way back when you did your first mock draft about a month ago, or maybe even more than that. Montez Sweat out of Mississippi, Ole Miss, just ran a 4.42 40 as a D lineman.
He's from Mississippi State.
Mississippi
Luckily,
State,
you're not in the
thank you.
South, or they'd come after you with pitchforks for that one.
Yeah, they probably would anyway. I'm married to a Hispanic.
Yeah, he ain't gonna
Just kidding.
he ain't gonna be there at 24 anymore.
No. I mean, just amazing. 4.42.
Yeah.
The speed. By the way, 4.42 is exactly the same 40 time as Miles Boykin of Notre Dame, the wide receiver. To give you some sense.
Who?
Yeah, shush. Be quiet.
I don't remember seeing him play. Did he play much?
Yeah, he played. So here we go. So let's get back into our winners and losers, and I'm going to go to the chat here too and see what folks are talking about. Thanks, Mark. We're talking about linemen. We're talking. Two of my guys who really surprised and did well were offensive linemen as my winners. One of the losers that you wanted to bring up was Greg Little.
Yeah.
Talk about Greg Little.
He doesn't have to worry about his combine being bad because his tape sucks too. I can't believe that I have Todd McShay 3 weeks ago still had him as his number one tackle. I can't believe I've got people telling me Greg Little's an NFL tackle and Jonah Williams has to move to guard. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Greg Little is he fits the measurables. He's not a good football player. His feet suck. His handwork is terrible. And he's going to be a left tackle.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, too, with the Combine is the Combine obviously is a big deal because the media covers it, again, ad nauseum. But at the same time, you have to look at things like game tape. You have to look at records of how they've performed over their college career and then factor that in with the Combine, factor that in with the interview. And one of the big losers that we want to talk about, because the interview subject is what we're going to focus for a second, is Ja'Kai Polite, the edge rusher out of Florida. He was a player I was really high on from a physical standpoint, and he did fine physically, but he blew the interviews. He said this publicly. He said, when he asked about the teams who had interviewed him, Kelly, he said, quote, "They just all bashed me," because he has a reputation for having some maturity and attitude issues. He just killed himself.
Yeah, he just he just basically affirmed everything that you had heard. He said that they asked what the best interview was. I said it's the Rams. They're the only team that didn't pick at me, or it's basically and I'm like,
poor guy.
If you can't handle that at the Combine, how are you going to handle a coach yelling at you for 16 weeks?
Yeah,
I mean that's and like you're saying, it wasn't a secret that was out there, that there were some issues with him, locker room issues, coachable issues. Well, he pretty much just affirmed that.
No, he did. I mean, he reaffirms, or affirms, I should say, not reaffirms, affirms all of the bad stuff that was out there about him. So if you're a player and you have that stigma out there, you have to go in and prove that you are not that way. Even if people ask you annoying questions, you have to get through that, and he obviously couldn't do that. Now, two of the guys, let's talk about a winner and a loser together at the quarterback position. Number one, winner Drew Lock did great passing, was not great deep, but was very accurate versus Dwayne Haskins, who was very good deep and good accuracy as well. But accuracy has been the big question with him, besides the throwing off one foot. I know you'll bring that up. But his accuracy was good. He showed good speed, 4.69 40. I think Haskins is a better quarterback overall. I would take Haskins before him, but I think those are the two top quarterbacks in the draft, don't you? Well, not counting Kyler Murray, if you want to talk about Kyler Murray. Outside of Kyler Murray, it's a separate story.
Yeah, those two are right there. I think Locke has a bigger ceiling but a lower floor than Haskins. I think Haskins, you kind of know what you're going to get. I don't think he's going to be a big perennial all-time Pro Bowl guy, but I think he could be a very good starting quarterback for a long time in the NFL.
Yeah, and the other guy on the loser side, quarterback, Daniel Jones. I never got, now I'm not a coach, okay, I'm not a scout, but I never got the fascination with this guy anyway, and then he comes out and just stinks it up, ran slow, was not accurate, and everything we've heard leaked out, not a good interview either. So he's just, I think, to me, affirmed what he was, and that was nothing.
That surprised me. I figured he was going to kill the interview, and that's why everybody's fallen in love with him. And I've said it a million times. He worked with David Cutcliffe. David Cutcliffe. You don't get credit when Peyton Manning does something for you.
Right.
You did nothing for Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's Peyton Manning. Stop all of this. Well, he worked with Peyton Manning. I don't care. You know who else did? Everybody in Indianapolis. What did they do if they went anywhere else? Nothing.
What other winners did you have from the draft or from the combine? Excuse me.
One of my personal favorite ones was Andy Isabella, and I've got several reasons for that. But like, he's basically just a speed guy, and I don't listen to his podcast. But Kuiper and McShay were talking about how he wasn't going to run fast because they were like, "Oh, he's the fastest guy on UMass." But what does that mean? And McShay said he would take over 4.45 in the 40. And Kuiper's like, "Yeah, you said he might run 4.55." Well, I talked to a friend of mine that has some people in the NFL, and that was going around in Indy. And I told him I will take every bet anybody wants to take. He runs under a 4.45. He ran a 4.31. You know how you knew that? The dude is fast.
He's fast.
You see it on film.
Sure you do.
You know who he beat in high school track in the 100 and 200 meters? Denzel Ward, who ran a 4.32 in the combine.
Yeah, no, I mean, and to me, there's no doubt that speed, I mean, the speed kills an ad. I mean, it's true. And if you watch the tape of him, he's a good receiver too. But is he a top 10? No.
No. He's
a first rounder.
No. I think
he could be a first rounder at the end of the first round, top of the second.
He's a late second, early third.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with the stock rising because of all these reports.
But because he's a body catcher, and everybody's gonna everybody's gonna freak out about that. But you can't teach that speed. He's a pretty good route runner. He could clean that up a little, but he's the kind of guy that can do that. But you can't teach 4.31.
See, I think he's one of those guys, Kelly, that people get enamored with because of the combine. I'm not saying it's smart or that it should be done, but every year we see one or two guys who should be a lower second rounder that moves up to second round, sometimes even higher, based on the hype.
If this draft didn't have so many wide receivers, I'd agree with you, but it's lousy with like second, number 2 and slot guys.
Makes sense. All right. That is combine. We'll get back to some combine, I'm sure, because there's so much to talk about. But after the break, we're going to go down to Los Angeles via phone, via the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line, to talk to the Violator, Wayne Mabry, super fan, Black Hole member, coming up here on Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
anywhere.
The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbranson.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's right. The future home of your Raiders. Hello, Raider Nation. And speaking of Raider Nation, I think one of the most visible, recognizable fans of all in Raider Nation, if you see a picture of this guy, you know exactly who he is, and that is the Violator. His name is Wayne Mabry. He has been a Raiders season ticket holder since 1987, one of the first 4 original members of the Black Hole. And I'm sure that if you saw a picture of him, you would know exactly. If you look on our Twitter handle, you will see it adorned in what is an amazing transformation and costume as he becomes the Violator. It takes him a lot of time every Sunday to get ready for that. We go out and we talk to Wayne. Wayne, welcome to Silver and Black Today.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing well. And, hey, we are excited to talk to you just because I think that one of the things I believe to be the most special parts of Raider Nation is, of course, the fans and fans like yourself who have gone that extra step and become what I call a super fan because of the time, effort that you put into not only going to games and being a season ticket holder, but this whole persona that you take on is really remarkable, the time, money, and effort that you put into it. Tell us, how did you get to that point where you decided that you were going to become the Violator and create that character?
Well, it started back in basically 1991, the year I released him from captivity in my mind. We used to sit behind the bench at that time in the Coliseum, and for some reason, the crowd just didn't seem to be as involved in the game as I felt football fans should be. So I figured, I got this spirit that's in me. I figured, let me bring this out and kind of like see if I could get the crowd ignited, bring some of that college atmosphere back to the game.
Yeah,
LA was kind of like LA laid back cool to me, and I'm like, we're at a football game, so nobody sits down at a football game.
There you go, right? It should be a rule. But I'll tell you what, I think that the time, like I talked about the time, right? Because the way I look at it is what you do, not only do you get that crowd fired up, you become part of the game. And so you, in essence, take on this persona and become an entertainer and become part of the game experience for other fans, which is really remarkable. Now, it takes you, about 2 hours? Talk about what you have to do to get into character and get ready for each and every game that you dress up as the Violator.
Transformation itself is about a 2-hour process, give or take. I've got all of the gear that I have to put on, but the biggest part of the transformation is when I go into putting on the war paint. And that takes about an hour of just trying to focus as much as I can on what I'm doing because my mind's already into the game and, the pregame festivities and the whole 9 yards. Kind of like seeing the game in my head before it's played. And, that's called visualization. But anyway, by the time I get about half done with the paint part, this other spirit takes over, basically.
That's awesome.
And the hardest part is just getting it finished, and putting on all the accessories and, like I say, getting to the arena.
Yeah, it's remarkable how great and how recognizable you've become. I mean, there's other folks that you're in the Black Hole with there, Gorilla Rilla, Voodoo Man, Skull Lady, Darth Vader, all those folks that I think TV fans have especially, and fans at the games have become accustomed to. Now, part of that, though, and I think this is where, and Wayne, I'll be honest with you, I grew up in San Diego, so I grew up not liking the Raiders as a kid. And so looking at those characters, I think a lot of people get the wrong impression, right? They look at you and this persona and how you're dressed and assume that this is some sort of environment down there in the black hole that is unruly and full of people that aren't very nice. It's actually the opposite, isn't it?
We are outstanding leaders in our community, Scott. We're family people. All that is, and I'm just referring to myself, is letting you see what's on the inside of me on game day. I feel like that all the time, but going through transformation lets the world visualize what my spirit is like inside all the time. Basically, we're just people we're die-hard fans of our team. We believe in being loud and boisterous because I've been told by players that, they feed off of that energy. Like I said, it's a college-type mentality. Just because you're pros don't mean that you still don't relate with the crowd. Now, if that ever changes in the game is going to be totally different.
Yes, and again, we're talking to Wayne, the Violator Mabry, super fan, member of the Black Hole, original member of the Black Hole, actually, too. Now, Wayne, obviously what's happening with the Raiders, the move it's painful for everybody who's involved, and especially for the great fans up in Oakland to be able to be losing your team and all the tradition that you're a part of is very difficult. Even though the future looks bright here in Las Vegas, it's been tough for you. You wrote a piece right when you thought that it was going to be the last game up in Oakland, which we all kind of thought it could be, and it sounds like now they'll be back for one more year. But it's painful because you have to say goodbye to all of that stuff and all the time you put in and all the effort. Talk about that for you and the emotions involved in knowing that they're leaving Oakland, and then some of the issues for you for when they come to Las Vegas.
Well, first of all, for me, as a kid watching them back in the 70s, Oakland to me was Mecca. And like I say, my childhood dream was to move to California from Mississippi just so I could attend games in person. All of that became true in 77 when I moved to California. Actually didn't get to go to a game until 84 in the LA Coliseum. But like I say, that was the beginning of everything for me, kind of like living your dream. And so the move away from just say California period, it tears you apart. But you have to look at it. This is a business. This business will not go in the toilet. So they have to make whatever moves necessary for them to sustain that excellence. And we will be back to that excellence. And I just hope I'm around to be in that Super Bowl standing right there front and center.
Yes, again, we're talking to Wayne, Violator Mabry. And Wayne, I know that for you and for a lot of folks, let's be honest, when you move into a brand new stadium that you're building, prices are going to go up. It's going to be expensive. And I know you're retired, fixed income, so you're not really sure if you're going to be able to get, in essence, the same seats and if you'll be in the same area. I know you put your deposit down, you said publicly. But what about the rest of the black hole and the folks that you are part of that family? What's sort of the mood right now and the kind of take on what's going to happen coming up for Las Vegas?
I would say overall the mood is cautious anticipation. The excitement is always there whenever our team's performing, wherever it is across the land. We're excited because we just love to see them out there doing battle, if I can use that word loosely.
Sure.
I still consider the game as war. Everybody says it's just entertainment, but to me, a true football aficionado, it's war. That's why they call it X's and O's. It's competition from the kickoff, till you get back to the mess hall to after game dinners. But anyway, it's cautious anticipation. It's still gut wrenching for us just to come to the realization that they are leaving. But like I say, we got one more year at this to let's close it out right. Which last year it was a lot of tears and saying goodbye to people that we probably wouldn't see again. Just on the occasion that we saw each other at a road game or something. But a lot of us got priced out of, like you say, where we usually sit, me included. So, like I say, the future's up in the air for me. I don't know. I'm just hoping that something happens in between that I can still be in attendance.
Well, and I know, too, in the piece you wrote back in December on thefootballgirl.com, you talked about, too, running into some folks from Vegas and that maybe the culture from Oakland isn't welcome in Vegas. And I can tell you from those of us here now, I can't speak for the team, obviously, because I'm not associated with the team directly, but I can tell you that the folks in Las Vegas, there's a lot of Raiders fans here. They want the best of the Raiders culture to come from Oakland. There's no doubt about it. Will things change because of pricing and cost of going to the games? I think you're right about that. I think there will be some culture change, but it's my sincere hope, and I hope that the team looks at it this way too, and that is that all of you have meant so much to Raiders fans, that you're welcome there and that you're brought in. And I would go as far to say, Wayne, that they go the extra step of saying, okay, Wayne, buy your tickets and we're going to get you down there because you're part of the game experience, right? You need to be in the black hole or whatever it's going to be called here. If the black hole, I know it's a trademark. If they decide to come here and actually have the official group here still, you need to be down there. And I know I want to speak for all of us here in Las Vegas associated with Raider Nation to say you're welcome and we want you here because without you, it would not feel like a Raiders game.
Well, I appreciate those sentiments, Scott. But like I say, miracles still happen. And like I say, I've done my praying on the situation. And I'm going to leave it in God's hands. But at this point, I'm just going to do my transformation and my ambassadorship for as long as I can, you know?
Yes.
And just, like I said, enhance the fans' game day experience. That's what it's all about. Because all these people from around the world take back these stories and photographs, and some of their peers cannot believe. And I always say, come and break bread with us. Don't judge us by going by what you heard.
Right. And so that's the thing I want to say to you again is thank you for all you do. I know how much effort you put into it, and it really does mean, I think, a lot for Raiders fans out there. Also, just a quick thing before we say goodbye is like Kelly and I, you're also someone who enjoys a cigar. And not only that, but I love that you texted me this last night. You have your own cigar. You have the V57s, and we'll put out some information there if people are interested in ordering a Violator cigar, which is awesome because the cigar band has your photo on there and everything. Really cool stuff.
Appreciate that. That was just, like I say, from my dedication to that. Also, got in touch with some people, manufacturers, and they suggested that I go with that. And like I say, it's been almost a year, and their sales are really good. Like I say, they're collector's items, but you can also enjoy them if you wish. But, yes, I plan to, let's just see how that grows and see what other doors that opens for me.
All right. Well, the Violator, Wayne Mabry. Wayne, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you out here in Las Vegas soon and hope to talk to you again real soon as well.
Appreciate it, Scott. You guys have a blessed one.
All right, you too. Thank you. Wayne Mabry, the Violator, and a super fan for the Raiders, and just great to have him. Okay, we're going to step aside. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about Raiders tradition. We're also going to talk more Combine from Indianapolis. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Basketball next Saturday at 2:45 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Hey, this is Tim Brown, Hall of Famer. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas. And we're talking Raiders football, as we always do every week here all year round. So let's jump back in. Talking to Wayne Mabry, and I had a couple of flamers on YouTube because saying that I was saying that he's in the black hole. No, he's a original member of the black hole. He sits elsewhere. Chill out. God, people are just... Anyway,
it's the internet, man.
It is the internet, and most of our fans and listeners are fantastic, so I can never complain. But Raider tradition. So we talked with Wayne about the fact that he might have some trouble, Kelly. I mean, and it's realistic, right? Which is the costs go up. I mean, to go see a game in Oakland right now versus what it's going to cost here in Las Vegas are just different. That's what happens when you build a new stadium. It happens everywhere, right?
Yeah. And, and like you're saying, it's bad that has to happen, but you've got a $2 billion stadium. They're going to be squeezing every nickel they can out of it. And it was kind of, just hearing him talk about it, like he gets it, he understands it, and it's good, but you want to see that guy. You want to see that. I want to see him every Sunday.
Yes.
That we're here. I want to see him in the stands.
Well, and it's going to be something that eventually I'm going to talk to the team about, because I do think, look, I understand those people buy their tickets, but fans like that become much different than a normal fan. So if he buys 2 tickets in the stadium, I don't care if they're up in the level, have just like you would make a section for cheerleaders or a band or something like that. Those folks need to be down there. They're recognizable. Yes, they're outside. They're not employees of the team, but they have become part of your brand.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they're not fans. Those guys, they're more than that. A fan, like you said, anybody can be a fan if you go buy a ticket. Those guys are institutions.
Yeah. They are, and want to thank Wayne for being with us here. Okay, let's jump back in. We're gonna talk coming up at the bottom of the hour. Attorney Michael Troiano will join us here live in the studio to talk about Robert Kraft and all of that, so that'll be kind of fun. But with some of the time, I want to go back with a lot of conversation out on the social channels here, watching us live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter about the Combine. You just got some news, too, on Devin White, right? No. Rashawn Gary.
Oh, yeah, it was Rashawn Gary. Oh, shoot. What was it?
Yeah,
he ran a very good 40 time, as was expected. He's one of those guys that they're just expecting to kill the Combine. Yeah, his official was a 4.58.
Wow.
Which, I mean, would really blow it away, but Montez Sweat's official was a 4.41.
4.41.
Yeah, that's just insanity. But yeah, Rashawn Gary, I mean, even the 4.58 for a guy his size, I mean, he's right in that 280 range.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fast, he moves, but when you watch him on film, you don't see that in the game. And if the Raiders wind up taking him at 4, I'm probably just going to start throwing stuff.
Well, Kelly, you had some other breaking news. Again, we talked about Ja'Kai Polite and what an awful interview process he had. What happened now today?
Apparently, the old 40 didn't go as well as everybody thought, so he got the mythical hamstring injury and will be missing the rest of the Combine.
Mythical hamstring injury.
Yeah, he made the mistake. See, that's the thing. If you're not sure about your 40, you kind of float that out there that the old leg's a little tight, and that way you've got the excuse to work on it till your pro day. Apparently he didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
So he just 10-yard split was 171, which is very bad for yeah.
And that's so who else when you okay, let's focus now on some Raider targets and how they did at the Combine. The guy who continued to, I think, impress everybody and may just be out of reach for the Raiders, at least at number 4, if that's where they're at, is Quinnen Williams, a guy that you were from day one said the guy that they should target if he's there. Talk about his Combine. What did we learn about him that we didn't already know? And where did he strengthen his stock to move up in the draft there?
I'm not sure if we've really learned anything we didn't know. It just affirms that this guy is a monster and that if he's there at the 4th pick, it's a colossal mistake by passing him up. I mean, you see the speed and the power on tape. that his, the 40 and everything's confirmed that. From what I'm hearing, his interviews went really well to where he's not just the speed power guy. He's more of a technician to where he was talking about how, he's watching the feet of the, how's the offensive lineman setting up. That's what he's kind of, and that's something you expect everybody to kind of know. But things like that, you can tell if somebody really knows what they're talking about or not. It's easy if somebody's just throwing that out there to try to sound smart. These evaluators, they know what they can hear and they know what they want to hear.
Yeah, no, and one of the things too, I had one of our viewers on YouTube say that Rashawn Gary isn't productive. Gruden wants football players more than just athletes. Gary is no doubt he's a great athlete.
Yeah,
but when you watch the tape, the hype and the tape don't match.
Yeah. Yeah, he says he wants productivity, but you see a man that big run that fast.
You get blinded?
Well, it's like, and you hear it all the time. It's like, you know what? We can get this out of him.
Yeah.
It's like we're like that coaching ego of I can get this out of this guy.
Yeah.
And it's possible Rashawn Gary could go on to be a 10-time Pro Bowler. I don't want that at 4.
Anybody that the Raiders or that has been kind of viewed as a Raiders target that has been a big disappointment that that if you're Mayock and Gruden, you suddenly say, you know what, that might not be a guy we target.
There really hasn't been anybody where they were going to kind of have in those picks that's really kind of fallen off that much. I'm really interested in seeing the cornerbacks 40s today.
Yes,
because DeAndre Baker was one of the guys that I had a possibility in the end of the draft. Deontay Thompson's another one, at safety. Those guys, the 40 is going to be important for those guys because there's some good tape out there, but they don't have that top end speed. You're just kind of wondering where that's at. A bad showing at the combine, and both of those guys have a chance to really fall.
What about Josh Allen? I mean, he's been the other guy that a lot of Raider fans have been focused on because he's an edge rusher. His combine's been fine, but not fantastic, right?
It's kind of what they were expecting, but his interviews have been amazing.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing, everybody loves the kid.
Yeah, and I saw him speak publicly there too, and he's really, really good. Like the way he comes across as a guy now they can be different in private, but I think that's a guy too. As a young kid going into a locker room, you're like, okay, I like that angle because you can see the leadership kind of quality come out of him.
Yeah, and he's confident but not arrogant. Right. That's the biggest thing in these little interviews. He'll flat out tell you he thinks he's the best player in this draft, and he says it in a way to where, like, it's like I said, it's confident, not arrogant, to where it's like he's selling you on this and you're buying it.
Well, and you talked about the 40s and the workouts for cornerbacks today. Who are you looking for? Someone there to say, hey, okay, prove something to me to show me that you're maybe on the cusp there of being a top pick in the first or second round.
I am not as high on Greedy Williams as a lot of people are. He just has. And he's got issues on tape to where, like, I was watching some LSU games the other night. I'm wondering if it's, like, because he has problems tracking the ball. He doesn't always high point the ball, doesn't always get his head around. But the more I watched it, I'm kind of wondering, is it just a dude that's bored that knows he's going to the NFL? Because some of the things I saw, it just seemed like most of the lack of effort was almost like I'm trying to think of how to explain this. It's just, he almost looked bored at times because it's like, okay, I got this, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's, in the NFL, you're not going to have that, obviously. But I'm wondering if the issues he has is something he can fix or if that's just kind of the mindset he had in college.
That's right. Well, again, all great conversation stuff to happen. When we're going to step aside now for a quick break. On the other side, we will be talking with attorney Michael Troiano about Robert Kraft and the jackpot he finds himself in. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Sports Radio. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And as we do all season long and now even out of the season, one thing that never is out of season is the law, right? So joining us today in studio is our in-house legal expert when it comes to criminal defense matters and just, in essence, criminal law, and that is attorney Michael Troiano. Michael, welcome back to Silver and Black Today.
Feels like I never left.
Yeah. Well, we're here to talk today about an owner, an NFL owner. We know Robert Kraft. We talked about it last week on the show. Arrested for prostitution in a sting, in essence, down at a massage parlor in Florida. And there's been an update on the case, obviously, Michael, as they had to plead this week and make his attorneys had to make an appearance in court. What's the latest with Kraft and sort of has anything changed since the initial kind of arrest / charges that were filed?
Well, I'm sure a lot's changed, but at this point, it doesn't seem like anything's leaking, which is probably good for him. Because what we're dealing here with is not only the criminal justice system. They had an arraignment. He entered a not guilty plea, and the prosecution is going to start providing discovery, which essentially is any evidence that they have against him. And apparently there's videotape evidence, so we'll see how this works out. They're going to provide that to his defense team so they can review that in preparation for either a trial and or some sort of process of a plea negotiation. But what I think is real interesting, and I haven't seen much knowledge or written information on it yet, is the civil suits that are going to come. I imagine that a lot of those women that were working in those parlors are going to get some sort of legal counsel and go after Robert Kraft and anyone else who participated in those acts that have deep pockets.
Well, let me ask you this, though. So a criminal charge, we know it's a misdemeanor, right, that he was charged with?
Correct.
How does that lead to a civil suit if you're a prostitute or someone who's working there? Is it because of the trafficking issue, or what is it?
Yeah, I mean, they're essentially going to argue, or it's already been put out there, that apparently a lot of these women weren't there on their own accord, that they were forced, either trafficked through other countries or cities or states or whatnot. I mean, it sounds like it's a global issue specifically in this matter. So there's a big difference between somebody who's there on their own, arguably, like we have here in Nevada outside of Clark County and some of the bunny ranches and whatnot, and some of these victims is essentially what they're calling them.
Yeah. So, Kelly, you don't have anything snarky to say? I thought you'd be ready with a joke or something.
No, I don't have any joke or anything. I mean, I'm just like the whole thing about this. Like they say they've got videotape and everything, and I'm like, so the police set up a sting. They've got videotape of all this stuff. Yet, if they think these women are trafficking, doing against their will and everything, they continue to let it happen to keep getting evidence. At what point are they like, okay, because if this is illegal going on and somebody's doing this against their will and the police are just standing by and keep letting, well, we have to let this happen to get this evidence. I just find that strange that they continue to let this go on even though they know something's going on illegal to just get more evidence in a case.
Michael, in your experience, how long do they let crimes occur? Is it they're waiting to get as many people involved, or what have you seen traditionally when you're on the defense side?
Well, it really depends on police, their objective and their goals. Yeah. What essentially are they trying to get here? So I'd imagine they received some sort of tip that it was more than just a quote-unquote Asian massage parlor, that there was big hitters coming in there, because quite frankly, if your average Joe goes to one of those places here in Vegas,
they don't care.
Yeah, they can care less. Sure, there's stings and it happens, and I do come across those kind of cases, and I have clients that are involved in that on both sides of it. So it's not that it's non-existent, but with what you were stating about how long were they going to let it go, once they had the idea or came into some information that there's big-time people involved, Robert Kraft, people in the media, billionaires, they probably were given a lot more leeway to let this thing go on a little bit longer for the quote-unquote greater good. I see it a lot more in drug cases where I'll have a client or clients that are involved at the lower level, and then they're given an opportunity to either fight the charges on their own or to quote-unquote cooperate to go after bigger fish, and they're basically working in tandem with law enforcement, committing new offenses by purchasing larger amounts of drugs. And that's essentially what I assumed. Again, don't know all the facts yet, but had here as they got whoever owned or was responsible for that parlor. said, listen, you can play nice and let us go in there and record and get the bigger fish that we quote unquote care about, or we can go ahead and take you in on those charges. And they probably said, yeah, I'll just let you do your thing and let me skate.
Well, now, again, we're talking to attorney Michael Troiano, criminal defense attorney, TorontoVegasLaw.com. Michael, when it comes to these cases, we are hearing a lot now, with good reason, and it's a good thing, about human trafficking. It's a huge problem worldwide. We know it's a problem here in Nevada, too. When it comes to this case with Robert Kraft, it's a misdemeanor, but because of the buzz and the importance and the focus on human trafficking now, are even misdemeanor charges now becoming, how are judges treating this? Are they being more, there's only so many penalties you can give for a misdemeanor, right? Sure. But are they going after people much more aggressively than they have in the past, even for misdemeanors like this?
Well, I am not a Florida attorney. I'm a Nevada attorney. So under Nevada law, the maximum sentence that you could get for this type of situation is a 6-month sentence. In jail, you don't go to prison. It's just a misdemeanor. I don't believe that Robert Kraft has any prior criminal history. Why would he need to with all that money? So most likely it's going to be a slap on the wrist. But the problem is when you deal with clients who are in the limelight, it almost arguably can be more difficult for the defense counsel because judges do want to make an example and they don't want to hear the ranting and the raving. It's like, oh, he just was asked to take an online class and pay a $500 fine, and Joe Blow in the street's going to say, oh, he's a billionaire, he should have paid a $500,000 fine. But the reality is the law doesn't prescribe to that. There's certain limits for the amounts of fines, jail times, classes, community service, whatever it may be in each state, county, and municipality. And they're not going to treat him any different, for better or for worse, than just some 21-year-old kid going out on his birthday and
making a mistake.
Making a mistake,
Again, we're talking to attorney Michael Troiano here on Silver and Black today. So now, if you're not a Florida lawyer, but if this happened in Nevada and Robert Kraft is your client,
that'd be nice.
Yes, it would be nice
I'll
to
take
have
that
retainer. I was going to get retainer.
But if you were his attorney, and again, we're speaking completely hypothetical.
Sure.
You're not giving legal advice or anything like that. But is this a case where you're just going to get your client out of this as fast as you can with as little publicity as you can? How do you handle a case like this when you have a client that is so well known?
Well, usually I'm the one driving the bus, and the client understands where we're going to go with it, and I'm very transparent early on before they even pay me and how I plan on attacking a case. But let's be frank, Robert Kraft is a different individual. His lawyers are handling this most likely. He's had relationships for decades in other areas of the law, or they brought in someone who specifically does criminal defense, what I would suggest, that is intimate and familiar with his lawyers who handle more of his day-to-day affairs. So they probably already have a good idea of what Robert expects and are going to kind of go by his way. Now, sure, they're leading the train as far as the criminal defense aspect is concerned, and I'm sure a smart businessman like Robert leans on a lot of people for their specialties in his day-to-day functions. But in reality, it's quite different. He's just got so much money on the line. He's got the NFL aspect. It's not just, hey, I'm popular, I'm a quote-unquote Instagram model, and by the way, I got in trouble here. There's so many different aspects outside of just the criminal part alone that I guarantee there's teams of people that are sitting down talking about how does this affect the team, how does this affect our finances with the potential lawsuits, what's going on with the criminal. Quite frankly, with it only being a misdemeanor charge, the actual penalties and consequences of the criminal side of it, at least in Mr. Kraft's aspect, are probably low on the totem pole.
No, I was going to say, now if you're just a regular Joe here in Las Vegas, and like you said, you've had clients on both sides of an issue like this, does it get costly? Not to give out your rates, we don't want to do that, but
sure.
But it gets costly even with a misdemeanor, can it?
Yeah, nobody plans to come to my office. Most likely, I get it. People come in there. I always say to clients, kind of break the ice. Like, I'm not here to sell vacations. I understand you're dejected, you're embarrassed, especially if family members, friends, wives, whoever come to find out because they're the ones who are bailing them out. It's not a good place to be. I understand that, and it can be costly. But at the same time, if you have a clean record and you're being accused of soliciting prostitution, that's something that you get what you pay for. So you want to make sure that you don't just show up and shrug your shoulders and say, oh, what's the judge going to throw at me? You want somebody to go in there and represent you. And quite frankly, a lot of times I can handle these cases without my client even having to show their face at court, and especially an embarrassing charge like this, let alone your time and money spent having to go down there and handle it. You much prefer me to be your spokesperson.
So all your clients aren't like the one that got you on national TV when he was going a little bonkers in the courtroom?
No. That's
Michael's becoming quite the media guy. He's all over the place. Kelly.
Any chance that the judge offers Kraft a plea deal if he admits to cheating to win multiple Super Bowls, they'll drop the charges?
Maybe if it was in New York, but I don't know. Florida doesn't have much success in the NFL lately.
No, they do not. Attorney Michael Troiano, if you have any needs from a DUI to more serious matters, check out TroianoVegasLaw.com. Michael, thanks again for coming in.
I appreciate it. You guys have a good Sunday.
You too. All right, when we come back, we're going to have Kelly's Corner close out the day and the show. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio.
We're here with Chuck.